We cannot let ourselves be distracted from Donald Trump's Jeffrey Epstein scandal, and that is exactly what he wants right now. Under the guise of inflamed political rhetoric, so many on the right will say that we can't talk about Epstein or be even remotely critical of Donald Trump, but I will not listen, and we do not have to, and we won't, especially after a news story was just broken out of Bloomberg, who obtained 17,000 of Jeffrey Epstein's unseen emails, which go to show his connection to Trump and blow up the story like never before. We are going to get into it in the secret list that was revealed, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we can get into that secret list that was found in these newly released emails, I want to start with the context that we need, the connection that has existed between Trump and Epstein all along, that Rachel Maddow broke down right here.
What happened to the lawyer who got Epstein his bizarrely lenient plea deal when he was first arrested on sex trafficking charges in Florida? What happened to the lawyer who got him that bizarrely lenient plea deal? Well, Trump hired him to be his own lawyer. What happened to the U.S. attorney who gave Jeffrey Epstein that bizarrely lenient plea deal? Oh, Trump put him in his cabinet in his first term. Well, who then prosecuted Epstein a second time when he was brought up on federal charges? Oh, that was the SDNY line prosecutor who Trump inexplicably fired last week. Who was in charge of the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons when Epstein then killed himself in federal custody? President Donald Trump. Who bragged to a reporter about how much Epstein seemed to like women on the younger side? Who said Epstein was a lot of fun to be with? Who bragged that he was friends with Epstein for 15 years? Who flew on his plane at least 7 times? And who now says that everybody needs to stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein right now? Answers there are Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, and Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, through most of his life, was inextricably linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Not only were they best friends in the late 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, according to Donald Trump, that's not some liberal conspiracy, some hoax that we created by, signing his signature the wrong way, which is just a complete line of bullshit, by the way, but these two were best friends. But even after that friendship ended, and how it ended is very important to this story, Donald Trump was still linked to Epstein. He made a very clear effort to keep the people who protected Epstein around him. Now, we don't know just yet, but I think we can assume at this point, if that's because he wanted to keep the secrets of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein safe, or because Donald Trump knew if he ever got caught in the same way down the road, he needed that same legal protection. But Donald Trump always kept those close to Epstein close to him. And that is what he is doing right now, trying to cover up these files. He is trying to protect Epstein's associates as much as he's trying to protect himself, because he knows once you start to pull that thread, everything comes apart. And Donald Trump has partially done it to himself, with the worst example yet, and the most damning as it relates to these newly released emails, being what Trump said right here about a young woman that Epstein stole from him.
The story is like the time he flew him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can you settle that? What was it about? What caused the breach to begin?
That's such old history. Very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth.
The line that you would always hear from conservatives on the Epstein issue was that Donald Trump ended his friendship with Epstein. Why? Because he realized he was a bad guy. Now, of course, that is a complete lie. Donald Trump loved Jeffrey Epstein and everything he stood for, his disgusting, vile criminal behavior. But we have contradicting reporting now, of course, from Epstein's brother, who said that Epstein thought Trump was a crook, and from Trump, who says that it was a personal beef between them over a young woman, much like the type that Donald Trump would buy from Jeffrey Epstein, as we saw from that check. But if you want further insight to why this relationship ended and who was the one ending it, these emails show it all in the secret list that Donald Trump was taken off of after this personal fallout. Remove Trump. Epstein bombshell reveals he wanted president's name off high-profile list. Jeffrey Epstein asked convicted trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell to remove Trump from a list of high-profile figures in an email exchange in 2006, according to a bombshell report from Bloomberg published Thursday. Trump has been under renewed scrutiny in recent months for his past ties with Epstein, who died in 2019, following the publication of a body letter Trump had allegedly sent the disgraced financier in 2003. Trump has denied any wrongdoing, calling the theories around Epstein a hoax. However, according to a batch of 18,000 emails obtained by Bloomberg, Epstein had mentioned Trump multiple times in private emails in the mid-2000s, including in a request to have him removed from a list of powerful figures. Please review the list and add or remove peeps, wrote Maxwell in an email to Epstein dated September 14, 2006, alongside a list of 51 powerful figures that included lawmakers and business executives. Remove Trump, Epstein responded, according to Bloomberg, which exclusively obtained the emails through Vetely and reviewed them with 4 independent experts. The purpose of this list of powerful figures was unclear. Bloomberg wrote, given that the email had no subject line or additional context that would give clues as to why Epstein was compiling a list of names. The email exchange took place just 2 months after Epstein was first charged in Florida. Despite the FBI having identified at least 40 potential minor victims, saw Epstein given a plea deal that saw him serve just 18 months in a prison and allowed to leave on a work release for up to 12 hours a day. That plea deal was offered by then federal prosecutor Alexander Acosta, Trump's labor secretary during his first term, who said he offered Epstein the generous plea deal because he was told to leave it alone, that the matter was above his pay grade and that Epstein belonged to intelligence. Another mention of Trump came from an email dated August 23, 2007, this time just 1 month before Epstein agreed to his plea deal that also granted immunity to any of Epstein's potential co-conspirators. You have to assume they went to Donald Trump then. Grossman, the docs in West Palm Beach, Pascal, etc., Maxwell wrote in an email to Epstein. Bloomberg reporters' analysis of the email speculate that Maxwell was referring to members of the press contacting those in Epstein's circle following the charges filed against him. Abe Gossman, a real estate investor who sold Trump a Palm Beach mansion in 2004, and Joel Pashkow, another real estate developer who sent Epstein a photo of the disgraced financier holding a novelty check, apparently signed by Trump, suggesting Epstein sold him a woman for $22,000. There is so much to unpack here, but I want to start with that list. The list that Epstein was removing Donald Trump's name off of. One, there was always a list, and there certainly is now. That much is clear. But it was also clear that, of course, it's well documented the friendship between Trump and Epstein ended. But it seems like it was Epstein who was the one ending it. That he was tired of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump had blown up against Epstein, if he was furious with him, if he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, I don't think Ghislaine Maxwell would need any check from her boss, any approval to go ahead and remove him from a list. This was clearly a grudge that Epstein began holding against Trump. That is what his brother has said, that Epstein realized that Trump was a criminal and a con man and decided he wanted to cut him out of his life. And as it relates to the feds going to Trump in 2007 or reporters, all that reassures is that Trump was widely viewed as one of Epstein's best buddies. One of the main claims he says is a hoax. The reason for his lawsuit, which is now blown up in his face against the Wall Street Journal, is he said it is defamatory to claim that he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. But it just shows the close connection. This list reveals that Donald Trump was always part of this operation in some way and is once again an accomplice to a story he can't get to go away. And is more than a little bit because he just doesn't care. And Lawrence O'Donnell talked about how little Trump cares about the victims, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. in this clip right here.
Andrew Weissman made the wise point last night on this program that Donald Trump has done everything he can possibly do to dehumanize people. He did it in his first campaign speech of his career as a presidential candidate, dehumanizing people crossing the southern border, desperate to find a better life in this country, calling them rapists and criminals. He then went on to use Adolf Hitler's language to describe people in this country, including people who vote for Democratic candidates. He has called us vermin. That is Hitler's word. Donald Trump tries to dehumanize anyone who doesn't vote for him. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell dehumanized their victims. Donald Trump was very close friends with Jeffrey Epstein. According to Jeffrey Epstein, for 10 years, Jeffrey Epstein said, "I was Donald's closest friend for 10 years. Ghislaine Maxwell, the dehumanizer of those women, some of whom she met when they were little girls, completely ignores the pain of the girls she chose to victimize because she dehumanized them. She didn't think of them as people. The rich heiress who was suddenly penniless when her rich father lost all of his money and then desperately clung to Jeffrey Epstein's money, dehumanized those girls because she believed they were born beneath her station in life and they would always be beneath her." And so tonight, Donald Trump said, "I haven't even thought about that." And that's very believable coming from Donald Trump. That's what Donald Trump said tonight about meeting with Epstein survivors. And Donald Trump said, you just heard him say, nobody suggested that. Those were his words. Nobody suggested that. No, nobody working for Donald Trump. Nobody except the Epstein survivors themselves, who Donald Trump dehumanizes to the point of ignoring what they said directly to him.
President Trump, you have so much influence and power in this situation. Please use that influence and power to help us, because we need it now.
We are the Americans that you promised to protect, and we need your help. Please, President Trump, pass this bill and help us. Make us feel like our voices are finally being heard.
I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
Donald Trump called them a hoax.
We are not going to stop talking about this issue. I promise you we won't on this show. And if you want to support that, because this deserves coverage, and I will not be silenced, I am not going to have anyone tell me that we need to tone down the political rhetoric. Donald Trump is a criminal, and this is a cover-up. So I'm going to keep talking about it. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.